Emma was drying her hands on a tea towel by the window. She looked up at the sky, feeling excited, like she was 20 again. This was not just Ethan's birthday. This was a chance to recapture something that had seemed to be slipping away from their relationship. The comfort, the ease, the spontaneity. There was a piece of paper on the kitchen table with a neatly written plan for the evening. She sketched it out with Sophia. A double date to celebrate a birthday. The idea had come up while they were drinking coffee at their favorite coffee shop. Sophia, always energetic and full of ideas, had suggested a restaurant that served gourmet food and had a relaxed atmosphere. "I know a place," Sophia said, fiddling with her coffee spoon. "It has great lighting, music to set the mood, and desserts that will make you forget about your problems." Emma smiled, but deep down she doubted that a restaurant and desserts would bring back the spark she had been desperately searching for lately. However, she could not resist Sophia's enthusiasm. When the evening arrived, Emma stood in front of the mirror, putting on her favorite red dress that Ethan adored. It emphasized her figure perfectly, and the slight sheen of the fabric made her look even brighter. She applied a thin layer of lipstick, fixed her hair, and stepped back to assess herself. This was the very moment when she hoped Ethan would see in her the woman she had been when they first met. Ethan was in the living room, fiddling with the watch Emma had given him that morning. His calmness irritated her. He never showed excitement before any events, and this evening was no exception. "Are you ready?" Emma peeked into the room, adjusting her earrings. Ethan looked up and narrowed his eyes slightly. "You look stunning," he said with a small smile. Emma smiled back, but inside she felt a twinge of doubt. That's what he says every year, she thought. A half hour later, they were pulling up to the restaurant. Sophia and Jason were waiting outside. Sophia was glowing in a form-fitting black dress that perfectly complemented her bright red lips. Jason, tall and reserved, stood next to her like her shadow. "Finally!" Sophia exclaimed when she saw Emma's car. "We were starting to think you were lost." "Yeah, the traffic was just awful," Emma replied, getting out of the car. They walked inside, where the soft candlelight reflected off the glass surfaces. The waiter showed them to a table by the window, which overlooked the sparkling city. "This is perfect," Emma said, looking around the room. Sophia wasted no time in ordering appetizers and drinks, enthusiastically explaining each item on the menu. "Jason, you have to try this wine," she said, sliding the menu toward him. Jason smiled, but his eyes were already on Ethan. "Hey, Ethan, remember when we tried a similar wine at the tasting last summer?" he asked. Emma watched their conversation from the corner of her eye. The men were chatting easily, discussing wine and fishing, while Sophia quietly whispered in her ear, "Have you noticed how Ethan has been looking at you all evening? You clearly have a plan, girlfriend." Emma laughed, but she was secretly grateful to Sophia for this evening. She felt a lightness she had not felt in a long time. The conversation became more animated as the main course arrived. Sophia was enthusiastically telling a story about how she and Jason were trying to learn a salsa dance, and Jason would make sarcastic comments that would make everyone at the table laugh. Emma caught Ethan's eye, and he gave her a small smile. For a moment, she thought it was the same Ethan again, who could make her laugh in a second with just one look. "Well, let us drink to you, Ethan," Sophia said, raising her glass. Everyone joined in the toast, and Emma suddenly felt her heart fill with warmth. Maybe this is the night we need, she thought. As dinner came to an end, Emma suggested that they go back to Sophia and Jason for dessert and continue the evening. Ethan looked at her in surprise, but nodded. "Sounds great," Jason added, glancing quickly at Sophia. They left the restaurant laughing and chatting, unaware that this evening would be the beginning of a whole new chapter in their lives. Emma kicked off her shoes as they entered Sophia and Jason's home. Their spacious living room was already set up for the evening. On the low coffee table sat a bottle of wine, glasses, and a box of dessert that Sophia claimed she had brought from her favorite French bakery. "Make yourself at home," Sophia proclaimed, kicking off her sandals and sitting down on the plush sofa. Jason silently took over hosting duties, offering everyone drinks and deftly opening a bottle of wine. Emma glanced at Ethan, who was leaning slightly against the wall, his expression familiar, calm. She knew that look. He was observing, assessing, but rarely sharing his thoughts out loud. "So, how was your evening?" she asked quietly, coming closer. "Good," he replied, smiling briefly. "You tried him." This simple answer always pleased and disappointed her at the same time. She expected more: admiration, gratitude, or at least some hint of admiration for her efforts. But Ethan was like that, calm, balanced, sometimes to the point of insensitivity. Sophia, meanwhile, was already pouring glasses for everyone and chatting like a wind-up toy. Okay, she said, raising her glass. "The evening is simply wonderful, but something is missing." Emma sat down next to her, feeling the wine relax her. "What?" she asked, intrigued by her friend's energy. "A little fun, a little risk, a little play." Sophia turned to the others, her eyes shining. "And what do you suggest?" Jason, sitting down in the chair opposite, looked at his wife with slight suspicion. "A simple idea," she began. "We all know each other so well. Let us see how good it is." "And how do we do that?" Ethan took the glass, clearly wary. Sophia smiled her signature, almost predatory smile. "We LL swap partners for a while. Just for fun. You and Emma," she pointed at Jason, "will be a couple, and Ethan and I will be the other. For a couple of hours. We LL pretend we remarried." Emma felt her heart beat faster. "Is this some kind of joke?" She laughed, but her voice betrayed a note of anxiety. "Of course it is." Sophia waved her hand. "But it's not fun. Let us see how we handle it. It's just fun, after all." Jason and Ethan exchanged glances. The men clearly did not know how to react. "It's innocent," Sophia added, trying to break the awkwardness. "Just imagine you on a theater stage. No obligations, just laughter." Emma met Jason's gaze. He smiled, softly, almost reassuringly. "Why not?" he said finally. "Okay," Emma said, feeling a mixture of excitement and strange anxiety wash over her. They began. Sophia, as always, took the lead, making loud jokes about how hard it was to be Ethan's wife. "Ethan, honey," she cooed, mock reproachfully, "why did not you ever take out the trash?" Everyone laughed, but Emma noticed how Sophia put her hand on Ethan's shoulder, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Jason, meanwhile, turned to Emma, his manner calm, almost charming. "So, honey," he said, raising his glass, "what have you been up to today while I've been at work?" Emma laughed, trying to get into the game. "Oh, the usual: shopping, a little cleaning, making dinner. That is all a wife needs to do, right?" They exchanged smiles, but there was something new in that look, something indescribable. At first, it was all a joke. Sophia was making funny reproaches to Ethan, and Jason, on the contrary, was acting like the perfect partner for Emma. But over time, the atmosphere changed. When Sophia and Ethan went to the kitchen to get dessert, Jason leaned forward slightly, his eyes focused on Emma. "Do you notice how easy she does everything?" he asked, nodding towards the kitchen. Emma was confused. "Sophia?" "Yes," he chuckled. "She can make a scene out of nothing, but that is her charm, do not you think?" Emma felt that the conversation was going into a more personal direction. "And you, Jason, are not as quiet as you seem," she answered, trying to defuse the situation. He laughed, and then his gaze became softer, almost studying. "Do you often say what you feel?" he asked unexpectedly. Emma blinked. "What do you mean?" "Well, I think you holding a lot in." He took a sip from his glass. "You look at the world as if you waiting for something that may never happen." Emma opened her mouth to respond, but at that moment Ethan and Sophia returned with plates of dessert. The atmosphere became light again, but somewhere deep inside Emma felt that this evening had triggered something she had not expected. The game continued, but it was no longer just a joke. Emma nervously adjusted her dress, feeling the air in Sophia's living room grow thicker with each passing minute. Jason sat across from her, his calm almost hypnotic. Sophia and Ethan were laughing across the room, but their voices sounded somehow muffled, as if through a glass wall. "Everything okay?" Jason asked softly, his gaze intense but not oppressive. "Yeah, just unusual," Emma answered, unable to hide a slight embarrassment. "Sometimes unusual is a good thing," he said, smiling slightly. Emma could not help but smile back. Something in his voice sounded soothing, but also unsettling. She glanced at Sophia, who was theatrically leaning against Ethan's shoulder, laughing at his latest joke. They looked too comfortable, too close. "Sophia, you seem to be enjoying your new role too much," Emma teased, trying to bring the lightness back into her mood. "Of course," Sophia answered with a playful smile. "Your husband is the perfect partner. Although, I would adjust his sense of humor." "Hey, that is part of my charm," Ethan interjected with a grin. Emma shook her head, but inside she felt a strange uneasiness. She noticed Sophia give Ethan's shoulder a gentle squeeze, a subtle gesture that felt almost natural. Jason, sensing her thoughtfulness, leaned closer. "Do you miss me?" he asked quietly. Emma flinched, not immediately understanding the question. "What? No, of course not," she said, trying to hide her embarrassment behind a smile. "You look like your mind is far away," he continued. "If you want, we can go outside for some fresh air." Emma thought for a moment. The offer seemed unexpected, but something in his tone made her nod. "Okay, just for a little while." They stood up, and Emma noticed Ethan glance at them briefly, but said nothing. Sophia was too busy telling him another story. It was chilly outside, and Emma shivered as the night air brushed against her skin. "I'm sorry if I put you in an awkward position," Jason said, holding the door open for her. "No, it's fine. It's just, I'm not used to these kinds of evenings," she admitted. "You mean the game? Or the atmosphere?" Emma looked at him, his calm almost disarming. "Both, I guess." Jason smiled. "Sometimes it is good to step outside the box," he said, stopping next to her. "It allows you to see things from a different perspective." Emma suddenly felt like there was more to his words than just politeness. She glanced at him again and saw something in his eyes that excited her. "Do you always philosophize like this?" she asked with a slight grin, trying to ease the tension. "Only when I want someone to feel comfortable," he replied with a soft smile. Emma laughed, but it was more to hide her inner discomfort. Meanwhile, in the house, Sophia and Ethan continued their animated conversation. Sophia leaned closer to him, her voice quieter. "Does your wife know you can be this funny?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. Ethan laughed, though there was a slight strain in his laughter. "I think she knows," he said, but his gaze became slightly distant. "You know, you read a little private," Sophia noted. "But there is something appealing about that. Do you always talk like that?" Ethan joked, trying to change the subject. Sophia smiled and took a sip of wine, but her gaze remained fixed on him. Outside, Emma and Jason were still talking. Jason was telling her about how he and Sophia had met, how their marriage had gone through some rough times. "Marriage is work," he said, his tone serious. "But sometimes it feels like you put in more than you get out." Emma nodded, but did not answer right away. "You know," she began after a pause, "I feel that way sometimes, too." Jason looked at her carefully, but did not say anything. He just waited for her to continue. "I feel like Ethan and I stopped seeing each other," she said, her voice quiet. "It is hard," he agreed, "especially when everything seems to be going in a familiar circle." Emma felt strangely relieved to be able to say it out loud. When they returned to the house, the atmosphere was different. Sophia and Ethan were sitting closer than before, their conversations quieter, almost intimate. Emma sat down on the couch, feeling something shift inside her. The evening went on, but for all four of them it was no longer just a game. Emma sat next to Jason, trying not to look in Sophia and Ethan's direction. Even their laughter seemed different now, quieter, more intimate, as if they were sharing something that should not be shared with others. Emma picked up her glass of wine, but her hands were shaking. She took a sip, trying to hide the tension inside her. "Everything okay?" Jason asked quietly, sitting a little closer. His voice was low, almost a whisper, but there was genuine concern in it. Yes, she answered quickly, turning away. Just a little tired. Jason looked at her carefully, but said nothing. He leaned back, putting his hand on the back of the couch. His relaxed demeanor was almost infectious, but Emma still could not shake the feeling that the proceedings in the room were becoming too personal. You seem to be having a great time, Emma said with a slight grin, turning to Sophia and Ethan. Sophia turned her head, her eyes shining from the wine she had drunk. How could I not, Em? She said, as if challenging. Your husband is a treasure trove of hidden talents. Ethan laughed, but noticed Emma's expression tightened slightly. Sophia seems to want more from me than you do, Em, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. Emma gave him a tight smile, but her chest was boiling. Jason, who had been watching her through half-closed eyes, suddenly broke the silence. Ethan, are you sure you know what Emma wants? He said. His voice sounded innocent, but the room became noticeably quieter. Ethan frowned, but said nothing. Sophia raised her eyebrows, as if intrigued by this sudden turn of events. That is an interesting question, Ethan finally said, but I think we all know what our partners want. Do not we, Em? Emma looked at him, feeling all eyes in the room turn to her. She wanted to say something witty to get out of this conversation, but the words caught in her throat. Maybe we should change the subject, she suggested quietly, feeling her heart pounding in her ears. No, that is a good question, Sophia interjected, her voice urgent. We're all here to get out of our comfort zones a little, right? Why not get to know each other better? Jason chuckled briefly, but said nothing. He reached for the wine bottle and filled his glass, as if bracing himself for the evening to take an even more unexpected turn. Emma felt her fingers tighten around the stem of the glass. She glanced at Jason, who was looking at her, as if he was trying to read her mind. Emma, what do you think? Sophia finally asked, her eyes full of anticipation. I think, Emma began, trying to remain calm, but her voice betrayed her. I think that sometimes people take each other for granted. These words hung in the air. Sophia raised her eyebrows slightly, and Ethan frowned, as if not understanding where it suddenly came from. You think so? He asked, looking at her with surprise. Emma met his gaze, trying not to look away. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she did not want to hide her feelings. Yes, she said, her voice becoming firmer. Sometimes I think we stop seeing each other. These words hit everyone present like a bolt from the blue. Sophia slowly put her glass on the table, her smile disappearing. Ethan looked away, as if trying to comprehend what was said. And Jason, on the contrary, looked at Emma with approval, as if she had taken a step that he himself had not dared to take for a long time. Maybe it's not so bad, Jason said suddenly. Sometimes moments like these help you realize what is really important. Sophia sighed and sat up straight, as if she was about to say something, but her words were interrupted by her phone vibrating. She glanced at the screen and frowned. Excuse me, I need to answer this, she said, standing up and heading into the hallway. A tense silence fell over the room. Emma felt Jason lightly touch her elbow, getting her attention. You redoing great, he said quietly, and his voice sounded so sincere that it stung her eyes. Emma nodded, but remained silent. She felt like she had taken the first step towards something unknown. The silence in the car was deafening. Ethan stared straight ahead, his hands tightly gripping the steering wheel. Emma watched him furtively, feeling her own emotions overwhelm her. This evening, this strange game had brought out something she had tried to ignore for so long. She could not understand how such simple actions, ordinary conversations, could leave such a deep mark. Are you going to tell me how you enjoyed this evening? Emma broke the silence, her voice a little sharper than she had intended. Ethan glanced at her, but did not answer. His silence was louder than any words. Okay, maybe I should start, she added, wrapping her arms around herself. It was weird. Yeah, it was weird, he finally answered, his eyes on the road. His reserve irritated her even more. Are you going to comment on that? She asked, unable to contain herself any longer. Ethan exhaled sharply and parked the car in front of their house. Turning off the engine, he finally turned to face her. Do you really want to talk about this? His voice was even, but there was tension in it. Yes, Emma replied, not looking away. I think we should talk. He was silent for a few seconds, then opened the door and got out of the car. Let us talk at home. Emma followed him, feeling her irritation growing. He was always like this, closed off, avoiding confrontation. They entered the house, with a familiar silence greeted them. Emma turned on the light and, without taking off her coat, turned to face him. So, her voice wavered. Are you going to tell me what you think? Ethan threw his keys on the table and turned to face her. I think this game has revealed something we've both been afraid to admit, he said finally. Emma froze. His words sounded like an echo of her own thoughts. What is it? She asked, her voice quieter, almost a whisper. That we've lost each other, Emma. His voice grew firmer. Something has changed, and if you not see it, then maybe we've both just gotten used to ignoring it. She felt her throat go dry. Are you saying that we do not love each other anymore? Her voice shook. I do not know, he answered honestly, looking down. But I do know one thing. We live next to each other, not together. And I'm afraid that this habit has become a norm. Emma felt her eyes sting. She turned away, trying to hide her tears, but Ethan noticed it. Emma. His voice became softer. No, do not, she interrupted, raising her hand. You rewrite. We re-pretending. But I do not know how to fix this. He came closer, but did not touch her. Maybe we need time, he suggested. Emma looked at him, her eyes full of pain. Time? She asked. You want us to break up? No, he answered sharply. I just think we both need to figure out what we want. Not rush this, not pretend everything is okay. She hung her head, feeling her thoughts spinning. Do you think this will help? She asked. I do not know, he admitted. But I know we not go on like this. Emma nodded silently. She did not know what to say. For the first time in a long time, her confidence was shattered. Okay, she finally said. But if we take a break, what does that mean? Ethan looked at her, his eyes full of doubt and pain. It means we try to figure ourselves out, he said. And maybe we figure out what to do next. Emma sat down on the couch, feeling her strength draining. I agree, she said quietly. Ethan sat down next to her, but did not touch her. We can get through this, Emma, he said. I hope so. She nodded, but did not answer. Everything inside her screamed that this was only the first step to something unknown. Emma sat at the kitchen table, twirling a cup of coffee in her hands. The dawn was breaking outside the window, its soft light filling the room, but she did not feel at peace. Ethan was still asleep. They were both tired after that tense conversation that lasted until late at night. However, in this conversation, full of tears and pauses, there was something important. For the first time in a long time, they did not shy away from the truth. Emma cupped her cup in her hands, her thoughts full of questions. What if they could not get back what they had lost? What if this game was not the beginning of change, but only a point from which there was no turning back? You got up early. Ethan's voice brought her out of her thoughts. He stood in the doorway, his hair disheveled, and his eyes, tired but soft. Emma noticed that he looked different. His calm seemed more vulnerable than usual. Could not sleep, she answered honestly. Do you want some coffee? I'll do it myself. Thank you. He walked over to the coffee machine, taking out a cup. The silence filled the room again, but this time it was not tense, but rather thoughtful. I was thinking, he began without turning around, that maybe we could do something together. Just try to start small. Emma looked up. What do you mean? I do not know. A walk, dinner. Anything to remind us why we started this life together in the first place. His words touched her. This was the Ethan she had not seen in a long time. Sincere, trying to find a solution. That sounds like a good idea, she said, allowing a small smile to creep on her face. Later that evening, they went to the park where they had liked to hang out when they had first started dating. Emma walked down the narrow path, feeling a little tense. It was their first evening together in a long time that was not marred by irritation or silence. Remember the first time we got lost here? Ethan asked, smiling weakly. Emma laughed. You said you used the stars, and we ended up walking in circles. At least I could convince you it was romantic, he teased. Their laughter sounded like something forgotten, something that had suddenly returned. Emma felt lighter, even though she knew this moment was just the beginning. "Ethan," she said suddenly, stopping, "I think we need to talk to Sophia and Jason." He froze, his smile fading. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said firmly. "We not pretend nothing happened. They were a part of this evening, too." Ethan frowned but nodded. "Okay, but what do you want to tell them?" Emma sighed. "I do not know. I just want to be honest." Sophia had invited them to dinner the following Saturday. Emma's heart was pounding as they approached their house. She felt like this conversation could change everything, but she knew it was necessary. Sophia greeted them at the door, beaming with her usual energy, but Emma noticed a slight wariness in her eyes. Jason stood behind her, holding a glass of wine. "Well," Sophia said as they sat down at the table, "I have a feeling this dinner is going to be interesting." Emma glanced at Ethan, who looked as tense as she did. "Sophia, Jason," she began, her voice shaking slightly, "I think we all need to talk about that night." Sophia froze, her smile fading. Jason took a sip of his wine, but said nothing. "It was weird," Emma continued, "but it made Ethan and I realize that we were not who we used to be a long time ago. And I think you might have felt something similar." Sophia slowly set her glass down on the table. "You're right," she said quietly. "This night has revealed a lot of things I did not want to admit." Jason looked at her, his face calm, but his eyes strained. "We talked about it, too," he said finally, "and I think we all needed to experience it to figure out what's next." Ethan sighed, his shoulders relaxing. "Emma and I have a long way to go," he said, "but we're willing to work on it." Sophia and Jason exchanged glances. "So are we," Sophia said, her voice firm but pained. "But first, we all need to be honest." Emma nodded, feeling her heart tighten. This conversation was not the end. It was just the beginning of something new, something difficult, but perhaps more real. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.